Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be showing you how I farm the Nightmare campaign, who I do it with, and kind of when I do Nightmare and when I do Brutal, and just kind of showing all of that and discussing it. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so the Nightmare campaign is very tough. It's tough to get to a point where you can clear it. I'll kind of show you the character that I farm Nightmare with. Typically, you are probably going to want to go with like a magic affinity character similar to Brutal. It's the same concept. But yeah, so Nightmare, and honestly I think 12-6 is the better choice. If you're struggling with 12-3, 12-3 seems to be a little bit tougher. Try out 12-6. I'll show you a run here and kind of one of the handier things, and then we'll go over my characters. So one of the cool things about Nightmare is if you have the raid pass and the XP buff live, you can actually level up 1 stars in one run. So I think in Brutal it takes like 3 runs. So instead of taking 24 energy, it takes 16. So in terms of leveling up 1 stars, it's very handy in that capacity. And then 2 stars also seem to be very good in Nightmare. 3 stars I've noticed that I'll like get to 99% to level 30, so I'll need to like sacrifice 1 or 2 1-star champions just to get them a little bit XP to put them over the top. But yeah, it's just kind of something I noticed when I was leveling up 3 stars, but it's great for 1 and 2 stars. And my Ignatius, usually my good runs are like 48 seconds and my bad runs are like a minute 03. So I typically average about 53, 54, somewhere in there. And yeah, that was a pretty decent run at 48. And you can see my 1 stars are perfectly level 10 after 1 run. So that's very efficient. And the character that I use for it is Ignatius. Now, characters that are defense based are usually the best for farming the campaign because they get the most value out of the lifesteal set. I've talked about this in previous videos, so I don't want to, harp on it too much. But the lifesteal, basically the gist is the lifesteal set scales very well with defense characters because their hit points are tougher to remove, so every point of healing means a little bit more, and they're going to heal the same amount whether they're based off of attack or defense. So with the hit points being a little bit tougher to remove, we get more value out of the lifesteal set on defense characters. Makes them very good for the campaign. And then I like to go lifesteal plus speed because in a longer sustained battle, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, you're going to have more chances for that speed to really kick in and take effect and kind of lap your opponent. So I love to get speed. I would actually want to get more speed than this. My Ignatius speed is 179. I would like to get over 200 if I could. But this is kind of like my initial build. It's not like perfect yet. Ideally, I'm going to get him down to averaging like 30 to 35 seconds. Right now he averages about 52, 54, somewhere in there. But yeah, so now remember, if we have an affinity advantage, we get a 15% crit rate buff. So the most important thing in terms of, crit rate would be getting him to 85%. We can see here mine is 61, plus 15 is 76. So I would like to get him a little bit more, like 10 to 15% more crit, but I'm using crit damage gloves, which makes it very tough. I need to find like a helm that's double rolled crit instead of a single, and same, a weapon that's like double rolled crit. I need to squeeze in a little bit more crit rate. When you're using crit damage gloves, it can be very tough to get it to work. But I got lucky with these gloves. They roll double crit rate, on top of being crit damage. So those gloves are pretty good, and they're also speed set. So that's why I went that route. The banner, in terms of Ignatius, it's not super important to have accuracy be like ridiculous for the campaign. I mean, I guess it's pretty important to land. Or no, that's the reason I said that, is because his HP burns cannot be resisted. The stuns can be handy, but it's a 25% chance. The provokes don't really matter because you're in the campaign. So yeah, in terms of Ignatius, you could argue if I had like a godly defense banner, then I would use that instead of the accuracy one, and then just try to get like 150, 160 accuracy based off of like my substats and getting good accuracy on those pieces. And then obviously we want crit damage and accuracy on our amulet for any campaign farmer basically, and then we want good main stats on our ring. Yeah, so speed boots pretty much gonna be the guarantee here. Then for your chest, you're going to want the main stat of your farmer. So obviously I want defense. And then for gloves, like I said, you can squeeze in crit damage if you have good crit rate gear, and that should work out pretty well. Now, in terms of the masteries, obviously you're going to want to take the good ones for the campaign, like crit rate, crit damage, you know, increased damage by 5% when attacking with full HP. It will really help like your first attack on those rounds. Increased speed by each enemy killed. That's really good, especially for the Nightmare campaign. And then increased damage by 8% for the first hit on each enemy. There's some of these that are really good for the campaign, like those ones. I'm trying the defense tree right now with Ignatius, but I don't know. The support tree could be okay. Remember, this Lore of Steel is usually one of the better effects of the support tree, and when you use Lifesteal set, you don't really get near the value out of the Lore of Steel passive. So I'm going with the defense, but it doesn't seem to proc as often as I thought it would, or bring as much utility as I thought it would. So yeah, I don't know. This is the masteries I'm currently using. That's subject to change, possibly. But yeah, something I also want to talk about in terms of the Nightmare campaign is I think it's viable to do it when you can get around a minute. Like if you're like a minute to a minute 20, somewhere in there, if you're taking like 2.5 minutes, I would just stick with brutal. You're just gonna have, it's just gonna be too long unless you're like doing it overnight or something, then go ahead. But so when we do brutal, we have a lot of downtime. So let's say the run takes 7 seconds, but then you have about 5 seconds of downtime, because by the time you sell the artifact and then load the next level and start the next run, you got that like 5 seconds of downtime. It depends on your computer, your phone, whatever. It's different for everybody, and how fast you are at like selling the artifact and all that. Or if you wait till the end and then just sell all of your artifacts. Some people do that. I prefer to sell as I go. That way I don't have to keep like 200 slots available in my artifact thing. Anyway, that's a different topic. But yeah, so a 7-second run is actually about 12 seconds. So our percentage of downtime is going to be a little bit less in Nightmare, because like a minute, when you have the downtime of 5 seconds, that's like a much lower percentage of downtime versus a 7-second run. And also, especially if you're farming the campaign like while you're busy, like if you're playing another game, or if you're watching a stream, or if you're watching a movie, you know, if you're not like able to constantly look at the campaign, then you like going super fast and clearing it in 7 or 8 seconds on brutal isn't that important, because if you're gonna sit here and not get to your next run for 30 or 40 seconds, you might as well do Nightmare anyway. But yeah, so if you're gonna sit here and be like perfectly efficient and stare at your screen, then I believe honestly brutal's probably better, because brutal is better silver per energy. Nightmare is better XP per energy. So I do love having lots of silver. If you watch my videos, you know that. I think it's always great to stockpile that silver to give you some versatility on your account. But yeah, so when do I do the Nightmare campaign? Usually if I can't pay like perfect attention, like say I'm on my lunch break at work and I'm just gonna set it to auto click, or I mean set it to multi-battle for 45 minutes and just be done with it, then yeah, I'll do Nightmare, because I'm not gonna sit here and perfectly watch it. But if I'm like overfilled on energy like this and I'm gonna sit here and play, then I'll go on brutal and just grind it out, you know, 10-second runs, just spam my energy, get it done, and get a little bit better silver per energy spent and all that, and just click through that energy. If I'm gonna auto click it or multi-battle, or if I'm like playing Overwatch and I have Raid on my other monitor and I can't get to it constantly, like if I can't be perfectly attentive, that's when I do Nightmare. And honestly, if I can get my build optimized to do Nightmare in like 30 or 40 seconds, I might switch to just exclusively playing on Nightmare. I'm gonna have to kind of crunch a few more numbers and see, but it is better XP per energy. So you can argue that you should farm Nightmare if you're just worried about being efficient in terms of XP per energy. But I've got so many 6 stars. Oh, wow. That's the first time I've ever failed. Wow. I've probably done close to 1,000 runs on Nightmare and I've never failed. Like with this exact same character, exact same gear. Wow. Making me look like an idiot live here on camera. I don't like to go back and edit and remove stuff, but that's crazy. Yeah, probably about 1,000 runs, and I've never failed until that one. So yeah, okay. And that goes to show you, Nightmare is so much tougher that, that random one run in 1,000 can still happen, I guess, because Nightmare is a lot more difficult than Brutal. But yeah, what was I saying here? So yeah, if I can get my runs down to like 30 or 40 seconds, I might switch to just doing Nightmare exclusively because it is better XP. But I've got so many level 60s that honestly Silver, you could argue, is a little bit more important, but at the same time I have a lot of Silver. So yeah, this is something that might be a whole separate video, is diving into that whole discussion and kind of the exact calculations of when Nightmare would make sense to do like permanently and never go back to Brutal and all of that. But yeah, that's gonna kind of do it. I just wanted to kind of show you how I farm Nightmare and kind of my thought process on gearing my character and who I decided to use and when I do it and all of that. So let me know what your experience so far. The Nightmare campaign is so new, so we're all still kind of learning here as we go. Let me know down in the comments, what you think of the Nightmare campaign, when you do it, and all of that. I always enjoy hearing what you guys have to say. So yeah, that's gonna do it. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good rest of your day. Peace.